What's up, everybody? It's Aaron Duncan here, back again with another Carolina Panthers video brought to you by Unnecessary Bluntness Sports Talk. And on this channel, I start off every video by saying, "What up, dude?" Here we give recap and analysis of the Panthers, so make sure you guys are subscribed and hit the bell icon too so you don't miss anything. You're going to get a notification every time I drop a video if you hit that bell icon. If not, there's no guarantee you may not give it, because I give all kind of videos like this, because today we're talking about the Panthers 2020 season overall, and I'm going to give a recap and review of everything and just give my thoughts about how this team is set up going forward. Before we get into all that, I need you guys to give this video a thumbs up, because it really helps my video in the algorithm with YouTube, and it doesn't really cost you a thing, so it really helps me out if you give me a thumbs up. But right before you start, let me know your overall thoughts about the first year in this Panthers organization in 2020 under Matt Rhule. You know, it's been some up and downs. We had a 3-game winning streak earlier in the season, but we only ended up winning 5 games. So let me know how you guys felt about the program overall and the future going forward. So the Panthers finished with a 5-11 record. You know, there was some promise, and of course, everybody knows the story that 8 of those 11 losses came by 1 possession, and we had a chance with the ball at the end of the game to either win or tie. So a lot of close games in there. A lot of people think that we overachieved. You know, in Matt Rhule's first year in the program, with the type of talent that we had on defense, I was expecting us to only win 3 games and possibly compete for the #1 overall pick. Right now, we're sitting at the number 8th pick. So that may not sound great, but it does mean that we could be ahead of schedule when it comes to our talent development and where we are, because even though we only have 5 wins, like I said, a lot of those other games were close and it can go either way. A lot of games in the NFL are pretty close like that anyway. So you like the sign that we are right now, because these guys overachieved, they play hard, and they competed, and that's the thing that you like. Let's turn our heads to the offense first. So in terms of yardage, the Panthers offense finished 18th in passing and 21st in rushing. But when it comes to scoring, the Panthers only finished 24th. Now, these numbers aren't very impressive at all, especially with the type of weapons we had. I know the bright spots are that we know that we had 4 guys that went over 4,000 yards from scrimmage, including Robby Anderson, Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, and Mike Davis. So a lot of production when it comes to the yardage category. Unfortunately, the red zone offense was around the 28th mark, and we couldn't really convert when it mattered the most. Hence why quarterback Teddy Bridgewater only had 15 touchdown passes. And that's a very disappointing thing, because we have been struggling in the red zone all season. So you would like to see focus on this in practice and possibly getting better as the year went on. But it seems to be there's some deficiencies when it comes to our lack of tight end production and size for an easy target there, a lack of running game with Christian McCaffrey, and the lack of arm strength that Teddy Bridgewater has to make tight window throws in the red zone when the field is not spread out as much. Look for our red zone offense to be something that we try to fix up next year if we have Joe Brady, because Joe Brady has been looked at as a possible head coach candidate, and he does have some interviews this offseason. So whether we retain him or not, the red zone will be a primary focus going into next season. So I wanted to give an MVP award to a player on this offense. And that guy, in my opinion, was none other than Curtis Samuel. So Curtis Samuel came out of Ohio State being kind of a tweener running back and wide receiver, but we never really found a way to get him involved in the offense under Ron Rivera and Norv Turner. But it looks like Joe Brady really found a good spot for him. And especially with Christian McCaffrey getting hurt, Curtis was able to get back in the backfield and get some nice runs in the running game, and also play the slot receiver position and really make a difference over the last couple weeks of the season, coming up with big clutch 3rd down catches. And I know he finished top 5 in 3rd down catches when it comes to a wide receiver. And I was really proud to see the strides that Curtis made, because he really became a dependable target that we really needed. In the games that we didn't have him, you could feel that his presence wasn't even on the field at times, because the offense tended to struggle on 3rd down. The bright side with Curtis Samuel is he still has room to grow, because I feel like our offense still didn't use him to his full potential. You know, he still has a lot more potential in the receiving game and the running game, because once they actually involve him in the vertical passing game, it'll really unlock that. You know, Teddy Bridgewater does have his deficiencies, so Curtis Samuel wasn't really allowed to get busy in that slot position that he's really comfortable at. But also, there's better ways to utilize him in the running game, because he does have that running back background, but running him between the tackles and from under center doesn't really make a ton of sense. But you can get him involved on the outside, because he's slippery, he's quick, and he has speed. The biggest surprise for me offensively was DJ Moore. Now, it might sound crazy because DJ Moore had 1,000 yards last year, but to see him turn around and have an even better year, even though he missed the game because of COVID, really showed me a lot with DJ. And not just because of the yardage mark, but because of the ability he showed to go up and get contested catches over 1 and even 2 defenders at times. That's not really something that we saw to DJ Moore when he was coming out of college, nor in his first 2 seasons as a Panther. You know, mainly he was looked at as a guy that can make plays, you do yards at the catch plays and stuff like that. but he's really been able to elevate his game and show that he can go up and catch those 50-50 balls. But he's also shown he has the speed and acceleration to get behind the defense, as he was second in the league in yards per reception with over 18 yards per catch. So DJ Moore is starting to establish himself as a bona fide #1 wide receiver, a bona fide deep threat, and a great all-around playmaker for this Carolina Panthers team. And for him to be catching passes from a quarterback who's known to have deep ball deficiencies, for him to be second in the league in yards per reception just says a ton about who DJ is. Let's switch over to this defense, who we knew was going to be young after drafting 7 players in the draft last year. We did an all-defensive draft, which has never been done, so we knew there were going to be some growing pains, but I was excited to see how this defense started to overachieve and come together down the stretch. In terms of yardage, they finished 18 versus the pass and 20 versus the run. You kept that off with being 18 in scoring defense, and those numbers aren't too bad. When you told me in preseason that these guys would finish a little bit below average and middle of the road, I would feel pretty happy about that, because I expected them to be bottom dwellers when it came to defense, but these guys really started to get things together over the last 5 to 6 games of this season. You know, I expected some early growing pains, but I really expected them to get more experience, get more time under their belt, and for these young guys to finally earn their stripes and start to make plays, and that's exactly what started to happen. Now, the biggest struggle with the defense this year was missed tackles, as they finished 7th in the league in total missed tackles. A lot of big plays we gave up on 3rd down, and so just because that we couldn't make tackles in open field. Now, was this because we had a lot of young guys and we didn't get a chance to have an off-season program like OTAs to be able to fine-tune these skills? That's a possibility. Is it because that certain practices were abbreviated because of COVID policies? That's a possibility. But if we can really shore up the tackling, which is what the difference was down the stretch, it can make a world of a difference for this defense. Now, my MVP for this defense is, of course, Jeremy Chinn. Now, he may not win Rookie of the Year, but his numbers are really off the charts. Now, he led the team in tackles as a rookie with 117 of those guys. He had 2 forced fumbles, 2 touchdowns, an interception, and a sack. This man was really all over the field, because to be able to line up in multiple positions and not miss a beat, not have too many blown assignments, be in the right place at the right time, and lead the team in tackles, it says a lot about the young man who was a 2nd round pick out of a smaller school. And what's crazy is he played pretty much out of position for the most of the year, because they played him at linebacker a lot when he's more so of a free safety. Nevertheless, he's going to be productive wherever he lines up, so I'm happy we have this guy Jeremy Chinn on our team. Now, the biggest surprise for this defense to me was F.A. Obada. The craziest part about F.A. Obada's story is he started off being kind of more of a feel-good cartoon character type of story, with a guy that was in the foreign exchange NFL program that ended up coming from overseas to play for the Panthers. It was interesting to see and talk to him, and it was just all funny kicks and giggles, and he was a try-hard, feel-good story. But F.A. Obada has really turned himself into a good rotational piece for this defense, and he ended up being 2nd on the team in sacks with 5.5 behind Brian Burns. Now, the biggest blessing in disguise for F.A. Obada was the injury to KK Short, because F.A. gained some weight over the offseason and ended up playing inside at the defensive tackle position instead of that defensive end position that he played under Ron Rivera. This allowed him to use some quickness and some effort to get inside and make those 5.5 sacks that he got on the year. So I'm happy to see that he really came along, because he went from a feel-good story to a bona fide baller who deserves to be with this team going forward. But last but not least, I want to talk about Matt Rhule's first year overall, because you have to give this guy a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. You know, I wasn't a big fan of the pick, because I'm not a huge fan of college coaches coming from college going to the league. Hasn't been a ton of success that happens there, but you do have to give this guy a pass for his first year going 5'11". These guys had no offseason because of COVID. He didn't really get a chance to meet any of the players before they had to make decisions on draft day. So he didn't really know what a lot of these guys could even do before he went and drafted all defense. Had he got a chance to meet guys, shake their hands, see them in drills and OTAs, maybe he could have made a little bit better decision. Maybe the draft goes a different way. Maybe he makes some different roster decisions. However, the pressure was going to be on Matt Rhule, because he was getting a lot of money. He had a lot of stuff going on. Of course, they got rid of Cam Newton and brought in Teddy Bridgewater, a guy that him and Joe Brady wanted. Joe Brady was a guy who's only 30 years old that Matt Rhule came from college, so it was going to be a questionable move to see what happened there. Joe Brady did fairly well when it comes to the yardage production standpoint, but of course the red zone struggles and the struggles of Teddy Bridgewater says a lot about them, because they handpicked this guy over Cam Newton, the franchise favorite. So everything that Teddy does is going to be attached to the hip of Matt Rhule. And many people will point to the amount of close games that the Panthers played in this first year under Matt Rhule and just say, hey, we're this close to getting there. We're this close to getting there. We had 8 games where we only lost by 1 possession. If half of those go our way, we could potentially be a playoff team. But my argument for that is if you look at the 2019 schedule under Ron Rivera, we were in 8 one-possession games, and we actually won 2 of those and finished with the same 5-11 record. So it's not like this team hasn't played close games on a year-in and year-out basis. It's just this year, we just continued to come up short, and you can chalk that up to the youth. You can chalk that up to Teddy Bridgewater being the issue. I don't know. But at the same time, playing in these games is nothing new, but losing all of them is. I will say that some of his in-game decision-making does need some work because we saw this guy fake a punt from his opponent's 35-yard line, continue to fake punts throughout the year that finally got sniffed out by the opposing team. Bad challenges, bad timeouts being called, lack of tempo and procedure when it comes to getting delayed games and being up against the play clock all the time, and just a choppy decision-making when it comes to 4th down, field goals, analytics, and all that good stuff. Now, some of you say this may need to come with experience, but I'll say procedure stuff like timeouts, delays of games, and getting in and out of the huddle, that's things that any coach should be able to do when it comes to high school, college, or pros. So that'll definitely need to get fixed because that's not something that gets corrected with just experience. You just got to be better at that. I will say I do respect how Matt Rhule is fairly straight of a shooter when it comes to these post-game press conferences and when it comes to the media. The media has really been asking a lot of tough questions this year, and I don't know if it's just because Matt Rhule has decided to be so candid or he's new on the block and they were so used to Ron Rivera who really gave cookie-cutter answers that they decided to kind of open up the floodgates and ask him anything. But I do appreciate Matt Rhule being fairly straightforward in those conferences, even though he BS'd the fan base when he said that he expected Cam Newton to be part of the future. But that's neither here nor there. But in conclusion, I'm skeptically optimistic when it comes to Matt Rhule because, like I said, he is still a college coach. He still has a lot to prove. A lot of people are giving him a lot of credit without really proving anything. I know he built programs at the college level, but that's the college level. And they really didn't build them to greatness. He just built them to double-digit win teams. We're trying to win championships and multiple Super Bowls. And he has all the resources with the richest owner in the league, David Tepper. So we expect to see results on the field soon and very soon. But the 2020 season was a disappointment, but we did see some bright spots on the defense with some young guys with Burns, Jeremy Chinn, and Derrick Brown. We also got production from our young core of speedy weapons when it comes to our receivers. So there are some bright spots there. There definitely are a lot of holes that need to be filled. But I'm looking forward to this offseason. I'm real anxious to see how we address these things going forward. So without further ado, you guys let me know down below in the comments how you felt about the 2020 season now that it's finally over and you look back and take a deep breath. Were you disappointed? Was it about what you expected? Do you think we overachieved? Let me know down below in the comments. But without further ado, I'm signing off. I'll see you next time. Peace.